Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Amari's Revenge. The goddess next door is confronted by a Nubian queen out for revenge at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in this inaugural Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Amari's Revenge in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Two girls and a man were killed at a Fort Worth car wash when a fight escalated into gunfire.
A bystander's intervention might have put an end to a deadly shooting July 4th at a Fort Worth car wash before it could get even worse. Court documents for the arrest of 27-year-old Kennard Murphy outline how the shooting started and how it came to an end. 3 people were killed, 2 young girls, as well as 42-year-old Terrell Wynn. Fox 4's Amelia Jones spoke with Wynn's family, joins us with new details on the investigation. Amelia.
Blake, those 3 victims were not involved in the initial fight. As you mentioned, those victims include 2 young girls and 42-year-old Terrell Wynn. I spoke to his sister today, who told me that the family is still in shock about what happened. Fort Worth police say this car wash off West Cleburne Road in Fort Worth is where a large 4th of July gathering ended in gunfire. According to court documents, 27-year-old Kennard Murphy went to this gathering to see his 11-month-old daughter. Witnesses told police due to prior domestic violence issues between Murphy and the baby's mother, there are relatives in her family who don't like him. Just before midnight, one of those relatives got in a fight with Murphy. At first, it appeared the 2 men were going to get in a fist fight. Then Murphy pulled out a rifle and started shooting at the other man, who was unarmed. 3 people not involved in the fight were hit by gunfire.
Like, life is so unfair. It's so unfair. And it be the innocent people that get hurt.
Twyla Wynn's brother, 42-year-old Terrell Wynn, was one of the 3 people shot. He was hit in the leg and died from his injuries. Bullets also struck the back of a vehicle and hit 2 sisters in the back seat, 1-year-old Winter Thuston and 4-year-old Ivy Pierce. The children were taken to the hospital and later died.
Hey, them babies didn't deserve it. My brother didn't deserve it.
The documents go on to say an unknown person shot Murphy in the back, forcing him to drop the rifle. Then another person rushed over to grab it before Murphy could get to it and continue shooting.
I just hate he was caught in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Wynn couldn't confirm if her brother knew anyone at the large gathering. She believes he was there to use the car wash. Wynn says her brother moved to Texas from Louisiana about 5 years ago for a better life. He was going to celebrate his 43rd birthday in 2 weeks. His sister says that he also leaves behind a 21-year-old son.
He's going to always hold a special place in my heart.
When police spoke to Murphy, they said that he admitted to pointing the rifle at the relative of his baby's mother who he was fighting with, and he admitted to police, they say, that he tried to shoot him. Murphy is currently charged with capital murder of multiple persons. Fort Worth police say he's still in the hospital recovering from his injuries, so he hasn't been booked into jail yet. Blake, back to you.
All right, Amelia, thanks.
Now, in this alleged incident that took place in Fort Worth, Texas, at the Crystal Clean car wash, 27-year-old Kennard Murphy went to a gathering at this car wash to be able to go see his 1-year-old daughter. Now, Kennard Murphy went to this gathering even though he knew he had friction with his daughter's baby mama and had even more friction with the family due to past domestic violence issues. And as Kennard Murphy went to this gathering to go see his baby daughter, he got into an altercation with members of the family. And as he got into an altercation with members of the family, things escalated to the point where that argument eventually turned into almost turned into a fist fight. And as Kennard Murphy was getting into this alleged argument, he put his baby daughter down. And as he put his baby daughter down in the vehicle that he had, he went and took out a rifle and began shooting into the crowd. And as he began shooting into the crowd, looking to target one individual he was having an issue with, he wound up allegedly winding up shooting into a vehicle that led to a 15-month-old girl and a 4-year-old girl being caught in the crossfire, and the 42-year-old man who he was targeting eventually wound up getting shot in the leg, and the entire altercation eventually ended when another individual who had a concealed carry weapon shot Kennard Murphy in the back. And after shooting Kennard Murphy in the back, police were able to take him to a hospital and eventually put him into custody and charge him with capital murder. Now, the police see this very disturbing incident where two innocent children wound up losing their lives as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of the alleged actions of Kennard Murphy, they definitely fit the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And it's clear to me that Kennard Murphy is one of these beta males who has a real serious problem with being able to use critical thinking, because had he done a little critical thinking, he would have been able to preserve the most important intangible a man has, and that is his freedom. Now, Kennard Murphy basically was having issues with his baby mama for an extended period of time, and for things to wind up becoming, whether he had a history of domestic violence with this woman, this is where a man has to really start thinking critically about preserving his intangibles of manhood, like his dignity, his self-respect, and most importantly, his freedom, because when you have issues with a baby mama, situations can easily escalate if you are not in control of your emotions. And sadly, Kennard Murphy looks like he was one of these beta males who came from a single mother household, and because he came from a single mother household, he learned how to react like a woman to a baby mama when she goes out here acting out in public. And as he did this, he basically put himself on a road where he was having to deal with these domestic violence issues, and these domestic violence issues basically built up and were looking to escalate. And this man again had a child with this woman, and while he wanted to have a relationship with his child, basically he was dealing with a woman who was a toxic woman. And as he was dealing with this woman who was toxic, he just did not know how to deal with anything because he wasn't thinking critically. No, he was caught up in his feelings about this woman and her family, to the point that he wound up again feeling like he had to carry a rifle in the back of his car, which really shows me that this man really was not in a place where his head was in as related to critical thinking. Because had this man been critically thinking, he would have understood that if things are this bad between yourself and this woman, then the best thing to do is basically charge the woman to the game. And as you charge the woman to the game, just leave her to the courts and just let her just pay child support to this woman, and just stay out of that child's life, because there's more important things than having a toxic relationship with this woman. And yes, you do care about your child, but this is all about a man's survival, and a man has to think more about his survival and safety than thinking about getting into it with this woman and this family. Now, this guy should have been doing this critical thinking before he even got involved with this woman, because one of the most important decisions in a man's life is who he gets involved with as related to who he's having children with. But sadly, when it comes to a lot of beta males, they don't really think about who they're getting involved with when they are having sex. And because they're not thinking about who they're getting involved with when they're having sex, what they do is get involved with the wrong woman, and that woman basically they end up having a child with that woman. And when they have a child with that woman, it basically is something that makes it where he cannot really be in a place where he's able to think critically, because this woman is constantly attacking him as related to pushing his buttons as related to his emotions, because she's insecure, and because she's insecure, she keeps pushing his buttons, and that's how things escalate in some cases to domestic violence. And again, as things escalate into domestic violence, this man's head just becomes not in the right place, and not in the right place because that man is not in a place where he is in a place where he's doing any sort of critical thinking. No, he's feeling, and because he's feeling, he's just all emotional at the time. And one of the most dangerous things in this world is a man who is out here emotional, because there's nothing more dangerous than a man who has the, again, physical strength of a man and the emotions like a woman, because that's a very dangerous combination that leads to, again, a tragedy eventually happening. And that's what sadly happened during this July 4th weekend in Fort Worth, Texas, at this Crystal Clean car wash. We had a recipe for disaster with a man, Kennard Murphy, who already had a series of domestic violence incidents with the mother of his infant daughter. And this whole thing with him coming to the car wash was never a good situation, because if you've got a man who has a history of domestic violence, you would think the first place you would want to meet that person at is a police station, and you would want to meet that man at a police station because he's not going to start nothing at no police station where there are police officers there who will, one, have firearms to be able to defend that police station, and two, he knows that if he starts in the police station, he's automatically going to be arrested. Unfortunately, what this woman did was go out here and think that she could use the members of her family to go defend her. And when she did that, she basically put all of those family members in jeopardy. She basically put all of those family members in jeopardy because she wasn't really thinking about their health, their safety, or their freedom. And because of this, a child does not have their father, because this 42-year-old or 43-year-old man, according to some reports, who got into it with Kennard Murphy doing the role of the White Knight, wound up getting shot in the leg and wound up losing his life. So several children lost their lives, and a father lost his life, all because of a situation. Again, I believe partially was arranged by the women to have this meeting, not understanding that when you're dealing with a man with domestic violence, you don't deal with him by going to meet with him in a public place. No, you meet that man at a police station where he has to deal with authority figures like law enforcement who will hold him accountable. Unfortunately, what happened here at this Crystal Clean car wash, as they were having this gathering where they were shooting off fireworks and people were looking to have this good time outside of this car wash, was that this Kennard Murphy came to go see his daughter, and as he went to go see his daughter, he then got into an argument with another member of that baby mama's family, and as they got into that argument with that member of that baby mama's family, eventually what happened was that argument escalated to the point where it was about to turn into something physical, and as it turned into something physical, this is where Kennard Murphy put his daughter down in the back seat of his vehicle and then took out a rifle and began shooting this rifle, again acting on his impulses to sate his feelings regarding this individual who he was having a beef with regarding the baby mama's family. And as he did this, he sadly wound up taking the lives of a 15-month-old girl and a 4-year-old girl who were sitting in their car seats. Again, people who had nothing to do with the gathering at all. People who were just going there possibly to just wash their car or put some air in their tires. And those two children wound up getting shot and wound up dying at the hospital, all due to the impulsive behavior of Kennard Murphy, because he was in his feelings about his baby mama. And as he was in his feelings about his baby mama, all he was thinking about was getting even with this relative of this baby mama, and eventually wound up in a situation where he himself wound up getting shot in the back because somebody out there had a concealed carry permit and wanted to stop the carnage. And as they stopped the carnage, Kennard Murphy's life changed like that in an instant. Basically changed like that in an instant, because he went from being a Pookie baby daddy who was basically having issues with a baby mama, to being a man who was shot and basically on the road to losing his freedom because now that he has basically allegedly participated in this gunfire that led to the deaths of a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, along with that person, who he wanted to say his feelings about. Kennard Murphy has gone from being a guy who was basically just dealing with issues as related to a baby mama to going to have to be dealing with issues as related to dealing with a case, and now we'll be dealing with a case of capital murder in a red state where they have the death penalty. And possibly before he winds up on that road to the death penalty, he's going to be having to go from being on the streets and being free to having to deal with the order and authority of the CEOs, and going to have to deal with the pecking order of Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles inside of that penitentiary if he's convicted. And in that penitentiary, all those inmates in the penitentiary, like Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles, are gonna make him pay for what he did to those 2 children by basically beating the snot out of him, and then after beating the snot out of him, trading him and taking away his dignity inside of the penitentiary as they trade him for Little Debbie snack cakes, ramen noodles, packets of Crystal Light lemonade, packets of Crystal Light tea, off-brand lemon lime drink, off-brand grape drink, off-brand fruit punch, off-brand apple juice, off-brand Oreo cookies, off-brand lemon cookies, off-brand vanilla wafers, off-brand ginger snaps, off-brand duplex cookies, off-brand sugar wafers, Hunt snack pack puddings, Kit Kat candy bars, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pies, Snyder's pretzels. I mean, he's going to be traded for all of the commissary as they basically spit roast dude. And after they spit roast dude, what they're going to do is go out here, and Mr. Sprinkles is going to come in, spray the special sauce on the front side and the back side, and then call the guys of Cell Block E to come in as he splits the cheeks open and shows everybody his backside looking like the inside of a Louisiana crunch cake. And that's where Kennard Murphy will basically rue the day that he got into it with somebody as related to his issues with his baby mama, and will regret going out here and getting into that altercation, because he will basically have thrown away his freedom, because he's definitely going to get life in prison if he's convicted. If he's convicted, he's at the minimum going to get life in prison if they don't give him the death penalty and a lethal injection, because this man's, again, behavior is all due to him not really understanding what the concept of critical thinking is and acting impulsively on his feelings regarding a situation that he really should not have been in. Because if you've got a history of issues with a baby mama, you never go to any place where there's just her and her family, because basically you're putting yourself in a situation where it's he said, she said, and it's a situation where it's your word against hers. No, a critical thinking man is going to do 2 things. If he wants to visit his child, he's going to, 1, go to the family court and arrange a visitation schedule, and have that visitation schedule be one where they are meeting at a place where they're meeting where there's law enforcement, so that there is no issue. And 2, he's going to bring members of his family at that meeting place so that there is other witnesses who can say that what went on. And then on top of that, what he's going to do, if he can get the arrangements, is make sure that that this visitation is supervised, and again, a place where he doesn't have to deal with this baby mama looking to pull games, or having to deal with other people coming in playing white knight. Again, a man has to protect himself, and sadly this 27-year-old man didn't know how to protect himself as related to life, as related to dealing with a baby mama, and now will need protection of things like solitary confinement, because once the inmates find out what he did, he's going to again wind up having to deal with Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles for killing those children, as allegedly, and again, didn't have to be in this situation, didn't have to be in the situation, but many beta males wind up in situations because they don't sit there and think critically. They don't really think about more important things as related to their manhood. Don't think about more important things like their intangibles of manhood, like their freedom. And because this man didn't think critically about preserving his freedom, he has gone from being a free man to winding up becoming a man in crisis, and was a man in crisis even before this due to the dysfunctional way he was raised. Because of the dysfunctional way he was raised, he went out here on emotion with a gun instead of understanding how to resolve the conflict. And this is sadly what happens to many men who get involved with women and who are baby mamas. These men wind up getting into situations that wind up escalating out of control because they don't know how to problem solve in these situations. And if worse comes to worse and you can't see your children, yes, that's a bad thing to happen, that you can't see your children, but the whole thing is you just keep paying the child support and preserve your freedom, because your freedom is the most important thing as a man in this world, the most important thing in this world for you as a man. And sadly, this man didn't understand this because he didn't have a father or another man to sit down and talk to him and tell him to preserve his freedom. And now that he was never taught this, sadly, what happened to this man is he went from being a free man to winding up becoming a man in crisis. Now, if you want to learn all about the pattern of the beta male and how it leads to them winding up on a dysfunctional road to destruction and how to break out of that whole cycle, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me make more videos about The Man Crisis, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available for the first time in paperback, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. Learn all the reasons why so many Black women can't find a husband and why 70% of Black women are single. Get your copy of Why 70% of Black Women Are Single on Amazon.com today.
Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.